growing up, I always felt like I cheated myself by being born in LA. I really like big cities, but where do you go after LA? There are only a couple of urban areas that are larger than Los Angeles, you know? New York, Tokyo, the London area. There are a couple cities in China. Yeah, it's LA is one of the biggest, you know? It's huge. LA is enormous. So I always felt like I kind of started at the top in terms of like large cities, and but in Seattle I'm very happy, I think. Biggest but not the best? No, LA is not the best. I'm not saying LA is the best. I'm just saying I like big cities. I like cities that are so expansive that it feels like you could travel from one end to another and never run out of things to do. Like that there are sub-cities within the city, different cultures and different worlds inside of it. And LA does do that. LA is ugly and congested, but it does do that. In LA, you will never run out of things to do. You could be born in LA and go outside every day and go to a new location, and you would die before you had seen everything there is to see. Um, which I think is special. I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool that humans have built that that's a thing we can do. Big city access, small town culture is the best mix. I think you can have at least the best elements of small town culture in a big city with proper urban design, which is why I rant about it so often. If you have walkable cities with strong mixed housing districts, you can have people like walking outside and hanging out. List of biggest cities. Is this the city itself or is this the municipal area? Because the city of LA has like 3 million people, but the municipal area of LA, hold on, is like 20 million. Let me see. Where is Los Angeles? Okay, Los Angeles here is listed with a population of 15 million, so this would be the a metropolitan area, not municipal, sorry. The metropolitan area, yeah. So Tokyo has 39 million. That is insane. Jesus Christ, in the metropolitan area for Tokyo. That is unbelievable. Can't even fucking imagine being. Yeah, that's like it's like a moderately large country. Yeah, larger than all of Canada in one metro area. Okay, yeah, this is the urban area, and this is the city proper. Yeah, okay, yeah. Um, Delhi, Shanghai, Sao Paulo. I don't know anything about Sao Paulo. I'm probably not even pronouncing it right. Mexico City, Cairo. I had no idea Cairo was this large of a city. Huh. Mumbai, that makes sense. Beijing. Dhaka. I also wouldn't have guessed that. Osaka makes sense. New York makes sense. Karachi. Huh. Buenos Aires. Chongqing. Istanbul. Bukhara. A lot of world out there. Whole lot of world out there. Which is the densest of these cities? Hold on. Dhaka in Bangladesh. 36, 37 almost thousand people per square kilometer. That's unbelievable. Where does Los Angeles fit? Los Angeles isn't that dense. It's really spread out. Oh my God. Los Angeles is 2.4. Holy shit. Literally like 20 times the density. That is unbelievable. I can't believe what living there must be like. To Okay, I'm just taking a guess here, but this level of population density has to be like unhealthy, right? This has got to be like poor people packed in tenements, like pollution, streets, just like unmoving. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, slums. This can't be good. I wonder what like the ideal livable population density is. Where's Paris? Paris is one of the best designed like major cities in the Western world. Is Paris even on this list? 64 here. Okay, they're at 4,000 or just about 4,000, which is about 60% more than Los Angeles. That makes sense. You can barely see the sky in Paris. I'm not saying it's perfect. Just wondering. Um, yeah, what's the most dense Western city? Western cities are much more spread out than. Let's see. The densest city that I would consider to be part of like the West. You have to go down quite a while. Would be Seoul in South Korea. Would Mexico count? Not in the way I'm thinking, I guess. Doesn't Mexico City have like Seoul but not Mexico? Wait, what do you guys mean by West? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say West. I should say like developed, like first world country. I'm sorry. I don't know where like you would fit I don't know if Egypt is a first world country. I don't know very much about Egypt, but Mexico's developed though. Mexico's development is pretty asymmetrical, isn't it? Right? Like there are parts of Mexico that are as developed as like any American city, but a lot of Mexico isn't, you know? Then again, I have seen Parasite and I have seen Squid Game, so maybe I shouldn't be trusting South Korea. Maybe maybe not. How far down before we go? Okay, so London is the densest, what would it be? The densest English speaking? Uh yeah. London would be the densest at 6.4 thousand people per square kilometer. South Korea was a military agrarian dictatorship 40 years ago. Yeah, they sure have popped up. Hong Kong, China can't be a first world country, can it? It can't be a first world country. We took a look at all those the world in numbers graphs, taking a look at like England, France, America, like the relative income distribution. China is not where we are. India has the second most English speakers after the US. Yeah, but it's not an English come on, guys. Oh, come on, work with me here. Come on, man. You know what the fuck I mean. I think there's a significant difference between when I say like Western first world country, like London, and like Mexico City. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I've never been to Mexico City. Maybe if I went there, I'd be like, oh, it's like I'm visiting Europe or whatever. But I doubt that's the case. Maybe we should look at the density of the city itself rather than the metropolitan area. If we're looking, oh wait, hold on. Wait, if we're looking at the density of the city itself rather than the urban area surrounding it, France is actually number 5 at 20.4 thousand. Okay. I made a mistake by looking at the urban area. The urban area can include like the suburbs out in the periphery and stuff, but in the city proper, Paris is actually one of the densest cities in the world. Vaush unironically imagines Mexico with a sepia tone. Do we really have to look up the economic demographics of Mexico to see how they like are development want? Come on, guys. Mexico's GDP per capita is 8.3 thousand USD, which puts them right around where Cuba is right now. Come on, guys. Maybe Mexico City is like disproportionately like a concentration of the wealthy. I imagine it's more so than the rest of the city, rest of the country, but I doubt they would be on par like generally with like London or Paris. I feel like those cities have a much greater. Mexico City is pretty rich. It's literally the capital. Oh my God. It has millions of people. You guys realize that like even in Beverly Hills there are poor people, right? It can be the capital because of a small urban district in the center that has a gigantic, splendid city hall, but you can still have millions of people in slums around it. You guys realize that you can go over to Delhi and go to their like city hall and it's like opulent beyond belief, right? Does that mean that like does that mean like the whole city is how do you pronounce Delhi? Is it just Delhi? Like the meat? Delhi? Did I just say that? Yes? I just feel dumb saying that. There's an H right there. Okay, fine. Delhi. Sure. I was trying to be respectful by pronouncing the H, but anyway, I do think there's a meaningful difference there. The main difference that I'm looking at is like what is causing the population density, you know? So like a city like Dhaka, the one in Bangladesh, I'm guessing that's like slums. The Manila in the Philippines is apparently the densest city on earth. I want to see what that looks like. Hold on. If I Google like Manila city slums, like what is that? Yeah, yikes. Yeah, this is what I mean. Whew. For whatever problems like cities like Los Angeles have, they don't quite look like this. There's definitely a difference. Not to say we don't have our issues, but well, obviously you're searching for slums. Yeah, but it does mean something that a city would have any part of it that looks like this, you know? Of course, I am looking for slums, but you can tell a lot from a city by looking at its slums. For instance, if we take a look at the slums in Los Angeles, the worst place you're going to get is Skid Row. And if you look at Skid Row, as bad as it is, it's a developed population center with buildings and infrastructure, the same housing and construction and safety laws as the rest of the place. You know, it's not literally like corrugated sheet metal stacked into like a gigantic, like tessellating. Vaush, you're painfully American. What am I saying that's incorrect? What am I saying that's incorrect? You guys are being very white right now. For you fucking white American leftists sitting at your computer chairs, it's very Western of you to assume that poor people in Bangladesh are different from poor. They're clearly in a different situation, man. It's very obvious that the shit they're going through is different. There's clearly. I know I'm an American, but again, I've been to Skid Row. Skid Row is scary as fuck, but like if you look at like let's do some comparative analyses, okay? Here's Skid Row. If you see shit like this in Los Angeles, you're in like the bad part of town. You know what I mean? But like you can walk there during the day. I know because I have. It's, you know, it's a city. These buildings are, I don't know if they're up to code necessarily, but they're there, you know. Okay, let's go back to Manila. You see? There's a difference. It's very clearly a difference. My God. Most of the same picture, yeah. Corporates saying they're the same. It's still better than Paris. True. If I look at Paris slums, what am I gonna get? Okay, oh damn. Okay, this is pretty interesting. So it looks like, is this the Roma? Police clear Roma migrant slum placed on Paris railway. Wow. It's like a semi-permanent homeless encampment. This isn't quite the same because it's kind of like it's basically like a homeless encampment. It's not the same as it being like the actual population center, but still, that's interesting. We do have extreme poverty here. I've been to Manila. Even the nice areas are scary as fuck, dudes. Bagwood had nickel plate shotguns. Yeah, I would never go to a country like that. Like, call me paranoid or whatever, but I've heard way too many stories about white Western tourists getting, like, robbed or scammed in a whole fucking... anything, like, basically anything at, like, Mexico level of development or below, I feel like, there's a pretty decent chance of bad shit happening. It depends on where you go, of course. Even some of the worst countries have, cities that are pretty safe to go to. LA has worse than Skid Row. Yeah, okay, if I Google Los Angeles slums, yeah, the thing is, if you look up slums in a major Western city, you're mostly going to find homeless encampments that have grown out, which is very different from like a population center itself being like that. The homeless slums that grow out in these cities are like alternative living for the ultra poor, that's spread out around the developed infrastructure. They're not the infrastructure itself. I feel like because whenever I say things, people don't listen and they hear me in the worst and stupidest imaginable way. What they're hearing right now is that means that they're not bad or something. This would be like in LA. So yeah, this is out where even the car districts don't roam. It's like a trash pile, I guess. Slums can be very different depending on the city that you visit. Yeah, yeah, of course. Shut up, shut up. Twitter's gonna lose it. Okay, wait, hold on. It's time to really knuckle down, okay? You fuckers are so unbelievably privileged to make the assumption that a homeless person here in the States is even remotely comparable in terms of living situation to a desperately poor person in a developing country. There are literally billions of humans that live on scraps every day. And they aren't just the homeless in their city. They're not just the 1 or 2% of the population that don't have housing. They are the majority of the people in that city. The jobs they work give them scraps. Their housing is not up to any kind of code. It was built out of corrugated metal, cloth, and fucking wood pallet boards, okay? They fish for trash to find things to wear. They built it. Now, are homeless people in America fucked? Yes. Is it a horrible situation? Yes. Do they deserve all of our sympathy? Yes. Is it a serious civic problem? Yes. Is America fucked? Yes. However, you are so privileged to equivocate between the massive global systemic poverty, which is a product of unequal exchange and Western colonialism, and compare that to the homeless problem in the US. These are categorically different things. Please don't do that. Is there a parallel? Yes. Are there things to recognize similarities between? Yes. But the statement that these are different is not one which should be met with any kind of controversy, okay? And if you disagree, I invite you to go find a homeless encampment in Seattle and then go to Mumbai and spend time out in the slums, okay? And you can come back and you can explain to me why you're wrong. Just go watch Slumdog Millionaire, sure. I think the good faith argument is that the living conditions are similar even though the causes and scales are different. Yeah, but there's a big difference in terms of like the city or the social problem. There's a huge difference between like people. There are like thousands of homeless people in LA, and there is a city where 80% of its 40 million population live in corrugated metal sheds. There's a huge difference between those things. And even then, the conditions are decently different. At least if you're homeless here in like America, you, depending on where you are, you have access to some of the amenities in you know, a developed country. ERs function. There are, you know, the relative like safety compared to a lot of these places. Probably, I'm guessing, greater or at least different kinds of access to food. It's definitely a different situation. Public bathrooms with clean running water. Yeah, not to say homeless people have easy access to these things, but there are things they can access. At least here, you know, like it's a little easier. Yeah, we have toilets and sewage systems. Yeah. Now people are going to interpret this as me saying homeless people have effortless access to all these amenities. Yeah, I know, Vermin. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, literacy rates are a huge one too. Yeah. Um, if homeless people do get work here, like at least there's a reasonable expectation. There are like OSHA standards or like workplace, you know, that kind of stuff. Um, we know Tanky Sargon is going to find a lot of material here. Actually, the funny thing is, I'm actually taking the Tanky position here. It's a really common third worldist talking point that the proletariat in the West aren't even really the proletariat, that even the poorest people in America or France or whatever are very privileged compared to the proletariat in the developing world, which is something that I do kind of believe, though I don't take it as far as they do. I still think you're proletariat. I mean, the vast majority of everyone is proletariat. It's regardless of whether you're in the developed or developing world. But I do think there's a huge difference between like being the proletariat in America and being the proletariat in Bangladesh. There's definitely a big difference there. Kowloon Walled City was an ungoverned and densely populated Chinese enclave within the boundaries of Kowloon City, British Hong Kong. Holy shit. What the fuck? That is wild. Look at that. It's like a nutrition block, except it's housing, like beehive housing. It's like a fucking cube. Did you not know about this? I think I've heard the name. I don't know if I've seen the picture. It's been raised? Good. There's no way this is safe. The Yimby dream. The Yimby dream. Absolutely. This is where we could fit. See what we're looking at right now? You could fit every human being on Earth in this one little space. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Don't read about it, though. It's very sad. We're watching a video on it. Are we stun locked? Yes. Do I care? No. I got horrible sleep last night, and there's literally nothing right now that would make me more happy than watching a YouTube video on this. If we can find something that's not from Vox or Vice, we can... Let's see, this is from Geographics. Kowloon Walled City, Hong Kong City of Darkness. Is this a verified channel? Let me see. Geographics, what kind of content do you produce? Are you a YouTuber or are you a company? You look like you're a YouTuber. I hope you don't mind me using your video. You probably don't.
Imagine, if you will, a city of eternal night. A place so intensely crowded that sunlight never penetrates.
Oh my god, it's gonna be like a 40k hive world. Oh my god, it's gonna be like Armageddon. Oh my god, it's going to be like a hive world.
Penetrates its alleyways. Overhead, wires dangle from the ceilings, neon signs fizz in doorways. All around you, 33,000 people are crammed into self-built apartments barely 10 meters square, while overhead great airships rumble through the sky. Is this a vision of the future? The setting, perhaps, of some dystopian sci-fi novel? Not quite. The place we've just described was very real and existed within most of our lifetimes. Its name was Kowloon Walled City. It was once the most densely inhabited place on Earth.
Jesus.
Situated on the edge of Hong Kong, the Walled City was a place devoid of oversight, claimed by both China and Britain and administered by neither. It grew out of the needs of the poor who flooded there, determined to rebuild their lives. But was Kowloon Walled City merely a gigantic slum, or was it something more? A radical experiment in communal living and architecture that broke all the rules. Well,
this guy's faking his accent, right? I've never heard a British person actually talk like this, but I have heard people performatively enunciating in this way. He's definitely playing it up. That one little linguistic floor... Hold on.
A radical experiment in communal living and architecture that broke all the...
Architecture that's always put on, I think. He might be rich in English. Unless this guy literally went to fucking Oxford and has videos of him in the Skull and Bones Club. I don't fucking... Wait, hold on. This guy's been accused of making misleading videos before. Is that true? Do you think we should watch this one or another one? This one's pretty long. I think it's gonna be good. Is it... Well, is it fine? Can we... This one is fine? Okay. We'll look more into it. So have you, Vaush, lol. Okay. I just don't know if he had a reputation for it. I do dislike pop history, you know? Yeah.
The rules. Well, today we're tiptoeing through alleys of eternal night to explore the most dystopian city to have ever existed.
He has like 80 channels with 80 different writers. Oh, so he's just a host. Okay, so he's not a historian or an anthropologist. He's just a host who narrates a script that's given... Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, all right. He's like Vsauce? Wait, doesn't Michael writes his own shit, right? I'm pretty sure Michael authentically... Right? Like, yeah. He's a team, but yeah. Yeah. I like Michael. I think he's cool. Oh, because they're both bald.
The standard image of Kowloon Walled City, preserved in pictures, is of a high-rise slum surrounded by skyscrapers.
Hold on. We have to look at YouTube chat so I can get triggered for a bit. Hold on. Stealing from the proletariat once again. Vaush is the master of performative enunciation, so he would know. I will have you know that none of my horrible pronunciations are performative. I'm just stupid. Thank you. Does Vaush not know who Simon is? Nope. Vaush, don't get any news from YouTubers. They can say anything that they want. There's a difference between getting news on, like, geopolitical issues and just getting, like, info on the city. Like, even if he says something wrong here, I don't think... This isn't... It's not like I'm trying to, like, use this information to weigh my decision-making or my ethical, like, principles or anything like that. I'm interested in the city. I want to learn about the city. If I could find a 5-minute animated skit on it, I would watch that too. I don't think there's, like, the highest level of necessary... it doesn't need to be, like, a fucking academic article. Vaush plays up his voice way more than this guy. I genuinely don't. I'm sorry. I really, really don't. I've just done voice training. I was just like this. I'm sorry. Let's listen to this completely uncritically as a source of... Oh, wait, that's the same person. Okay. There are mad people. Mad. Fuck you.
more or less how it looked at the moment of its demise in 1994. But to understand how this concrete behemoth came to exist in the first place, we're going to have to travel back through time all the way to 1839.
Oh my God.
China is still ruled by the Imperial Qing dynasty. The British Empire still straddles the globe. And these two global powers, they're about to go...
What is this lag? Wait, why is it lagging? Are you guys seeing that? What? I'm not running anything else in the background.
...to toe in a fight that will reshape Asia. The First Opium War was as one-sided as watching the Incredible Hulk step into a ring with the Andrex puppy. By 1842, China had lost so badly that it was forced to hand over Hong Kong to the British. However, the Hong Kong the British received in 1842 was smaller than the Hong Kong we know today. Specifically, the area of Kowloon was just outside. And it was here, in Kowloon, that an old fort lay, dated to the Song dynasty of 960 to 1279 AD.
Is it racist of me to say that old Chinese paintings made them all look ugly as shit? Old medieval paintings did the same thing, but I feel like, holy shit, there's something about old Chinese paintings where they really just, the aesthetics that they promoted are not the aesthetics we promote today. Holy shit, there's been a difference. Oh, fuck you guys.
It was this semi-forgotten building that would one day form the core of the Walled City. The 19th century progressed with China losing yet another opium war to the British and handing over yet more territory.
Losing two of them.
By the time Beijing had also lost the First Sino-Japanese War in 1895, the Chinese state was effectively unable to control its borders. This may be why the British were able to force yet another treaty on the Qing, finally giving them control of Kowloon.
Old medieval look like toddlers drew at Elvis picture. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? I literally said they look bad. They look ugly in old fucking medieval. Oh my God. I hate you guys so much. Have you guys ever looked at old medieval paintings? These things are spectacular. Even the good, like, I am basking in the glory of the fucking Western antiquity. I am proud of my ancestry. I'm consistent here, okay? Yeah, I'm racist against the whites. Thank you. Oh my goodness, thank you. I really appreciate that. Also, even though we've barely talked about any politics, if you're enjoying the stream, please do subscribe and hit the bell. If you don't hit the bell, it's like a personal attack against me, and I'm literally neurodivergent. So, please stop.
But the British Empire had a bit of a problem. While China might be weak, it was also very big and very close to Hong Kong. By contrast, London was nearly 10,000 kilometers away. If the Chinese were really determined to hold on to part of Kowloon, there was little that the British could do about it. And it turns out the Chinese really wanted to keep the old Song dynasty fort. In the 1898 Second Convention of Peking, Beijing insisted on inserting a line asserting ownership of Kowloon Fort. In full it read, "The Chinese officials now stationed there shall continue to exercise jurisdiction except so far as may be inconsistent with the military requirements for the defense of Hong Kong." To which the British presumably replied, "Yeah."
If you, one of the things that I find really fucking funny is that back in the day, these dipshits were terrible at drawing maps. Nobody had fucking satellite coordinates, so people were like, yeah, dude, my country will end like kind of here, I guess, and your country will end kind of here. And that's responsible for like a third of the war. Like a third of war that happened was like, oh yeah, well, they did it with triangles. Yeah, but it takes time to do that. There's actually a really good Mapmen video where they talk about that, how at one point oh fuck, we should watch that. Oh shit. Oh god, is this just the React Andy stream? Shut up. Okay, there are a lot of videos I want to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. While secretly crossing their fingers behind their backs and winking at one another. In May 1899, less than a year after the Second Convention of Peking had been signed, British troops marched on Kowloon Fort, chucked the Chinese out, and proclaimed it a part of the British Empire. Just as they'd calculated, Beijing did not put up a fight. That line in the convention about the Chinese owning the fort had been shown to be nothing but words on a sheet of paper. But here's the thing about words. For such insubstantial things, they have a funny way of shaping reality. What? It was words on a sheet of paper, after all, that had given Hong Kong to the British in the first place. It was words on a sheet of paper, in this case the Zimmermann telegram, that would drag the US into World War I. Before long, the British were going to regret giving Beijing something as powerful as those words.
Oh, we're getting there. Oh, true.
You
Baja
can trace
California
how
is
the
the thing.
fortunes of both China and Britain changed over the 20th century by looking at how the British treated squatters in Kowloon Fort. In June 1933,
Oh my
for
God.
example, the colonial government in Hong Kong became concerned about Chinese peasants living in the ruins. So
Okay, I thought, given the way that sentence was put together, that he was about to explain how the British fired cannons into slums. I was okay. Whew.
living in the ruins. So they drove them out.
They
While the
would.
peasants complained to Beijing. Beijing was essentially like, guys, we already lost like 2 opium wars. We're not going to fight the British again. And, well, that was that. Peasants driven out. But jump forward 20-odd years and things had changed. In 1947, the British Empire was still reeling from the near-fatal
Rittenhouse is back up. Okay, but is there a We're just waiting on the verdict. What, are they arguing right now whether it should be held in contempt? What's currently being deliberated? Arguments over jury request to view drone video. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't watch the whole trial. I only watched the closing arguments. I don't know the specifics of the jury's requests or the drone video or whatever else, but if the jury's requesting to view the drone video, shouldn't you give the jury the evidence? Like, why would you not? I don't know.
blow that it had received in World War II. Across the border, China was devouring itself in a bloody civil war between communists and nationalists. As the bodies piled up, thousands fled across the border into Hong Kong. Destitute, in need of a place to live, many of them converged on the Kowloon Fort. By 1948, 2,000 Chinese refugees were squatting there. That January, the colonial police tried to eject them. On January the 12th, officers marched into Kowloon Fort, expecting a routine removal. What they got instead was 2,000 angry refugees attacking them with rocks. The resulting street battle was a disaster for the police. Although luckily no one was killed, 6 were injured and the fort had to be surrendered to the refugees. Now, could the British have taken Kowloon Fort if they really wanted to? Well, absolutely.
I feel like you could domino that shit. Just knock over one building and it'll take out the rest. What's up?
Since you're already Afghani, I just wanted to show you this.
One more mushroom, guys.
This one's very clean and like very nice.
Okay, I can touch this mushroom?
It's not dirty.
Okay, it
It's
won't
staying
kill me?
fine. No, it's fine.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, this one's a really nice one. Put it away from your face, or is that for?
It's to autofocus.
Yeah.
The autofocus auto detects faces.
This one's the sturdiest stem.
Yeah, it feels like I'm holding onto like a branch.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want it to kill me.
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
What?
I want to show Shaq.
We're never gonna make it through this video.
Look.
The autofocus won't. Here, you need to block my head. You need to block my.
See, it's stained.
Now do it again. There's a dye released from the cap of the mushroom that stains it when it's lightly abrased.
And that's how you know this one is poisonous. Kind of.
Poisonous. And now we know. You need to wash your hands. That mushroom is toxic. I'll be fine.
The British Empire we're talking about, these are the guys who conquered half the bloody world. For 1948, it wasn't a year when the Empire felt like conquering anything. London had barely survived World War II. The Empire had just lost India in an orgy of ethnic cleansing known as partition. There simply
Orgy
wasn't
of
the will
ethnic
to spark
cleansing.
trouble
Now
in
that
Hong Kong too.
is a script
So the colonial
decision.
authorities, they retreated, biding their time. In the end, they would have to wait decades. On the 1st of October 1949, Chairman Mao's communist forces declared victory in the Chinese Civil War. Everyone who wasn't a dyed-in-the-wool socialist fled, many of them into Kowloon.
Yes, Tempest.
Come 1950, the population of the fort had hit 17,000 people.
Jesus.
And it wasn't just refugees anymore.
What the fuck? That's almost the population of the entire city of Arcata packed into like a single block.
Criminals, dropouts, peasants, anarchists, and people fleeing the law had all joined this melting pot on the fringes of Hong Kong. It was at this time that Kowloon Fort became Kowloon Walled City. On January the 11th, 1950, a massive fire ripped through the fort's makeshift town. Although firefighters intervened, they only managed to save the ancient core.
The correct term for slum is informal settlement or informal infrastructure. That just sounds so like euphemized, you know? Isn't there something a little bit punchy and like emotionally powerful about the term slum? Like, doesn't it instantly convey like the deprivation? I guess it's a more like correct or like neutered, you know, but the term informal settlement doesn't really convey that that weight. It's just like, oh, an informal settlement. Oh, that sounds cool. Like a tree house. Like, well, no. I don't know. I guess it's like the people who say homeless people are houseless instead of homeless, but well, even that basically just sounds like the same thing. That's just a technicality. I guess slum is better than ghetto. Is the term ghetto offensive? I think it's offensive when you use it to describe people's behavior because it's heavily racialized. But if you just say that city has a ghetto, I don't know if that's considered offensive. I don't know.
In the aftermath, those who'd been living there didn't go anywhere else. They returned, and they began to rebuild. Out of necessity, they constructed new homes atop one another. A kind of architecture began to take hold, one that grew organically according to its residents' needs. It was from these humble beginnings that the vast walled city of legend began to grow. But the colonial authorities, they weren't done trying to evict its citizens. In March 1962, the British announced that they would demolish the walled city.
Hi, I'm a Jew. I'm giving Vaush a free ghetto pass. Thank you.
The residents complained to Beijing. This time, though,
my face when the Nazis march into the Jewish informal settlements in 1939. Sorry.
Beijing listened. Mao's government declared the British had no right to interfere in the walled city. He stated that it belonged to communist China. They waved about the Second Convention of Peking, highlighting those words that the British had foolishly agreed to a very long time ago. So what else could Britain do? Well, faced with the prospect of war with communist China, the authorities, they just agreed not to interfere in the walled city. Importantly, though, they also didn't give Beijing permission to enter Hong Kong and administer the place either. Suddenly, the walled city, it existed in a diplomatic no man's land, a place where neither China nor Britain was able to enforce their laws. And it was from this legal quirk that one of the strangest cities in human history would spring.
It's time, finally. We have the context. And now we get to see.
Okie dokie, so that's the story of how Kowloon Walled City came to be. Now it's time for us to take a trip inside.
He sounds like Lord
wander its alleys and discover what it was like to actually live there. Well, the first thing to note is that it was incredibly cramped. After 1963, the number of people in the walled city did not top out at 17,000. More and more kept on arriving. Refugees from Mao's Cultural Revolution or Hong Kong citizens who'd been ruined by the 1973 stock market crash. But even as their numbers swelled to an all-time high of 33,000...
That is so wild if you think about the parallel. People fleeing to this horrible slum, either from the authoritarian despotism of Mao, one of the worst dictators in human history, or from a stock market crash in Hong Kong, in British-controlled Hong Kong. Isn't that like a really odd parallel? You know what I mean? It's almost like in Squid Game, the one North Korean girl, like, why are you here? You know what I mean? It's like, huh. We all ended up in the same place, didn't we?
The space they had to live in, it stayed static. The Kowloon Fort's limits covered an area roughly the size of 4 FIFA soccer pitches. While the British weren't about to interfere inside it, you can bet your sweet backside they also weren't about to let it keep growing. That meant that new arrivals had only one direction to build if they wanted homes, and that was up. By the 1980s, the walled city reached 14 stories into the sky, the maximum it could hit without causing serious risk to the planes landing at Hong Kong Airport.
What?
The rickety towers that made up its height were...
What? They're next to the fucking runway? What the fuck? So everyone landing at Hong Kong Airport can just see it? Like, turn to your left and you can see the densest population center in all of human... Fucking planes skimming over the weather vanes at the top of these... Holy shit.
Weren't apartment blocks that you or I would recognize.
Plane flying over vid? What the fuck? They should have just kept building it taller and just risked a 9/11. Okay, what the fuck are the British, or I guess now the Chinese, going to do? Like, crash the plane into the tenements? No, they're not. They're going to adjust their fucking angle. That's what they're gonna do. Just keep building up. Yeah, fucking challenge them to 9/11 you. 9/11, but the buildings crash into the plane.
While some residents had normal-sized living spaces, the average block in the walled city was effectively a whole bunch of 30-square-meter apartments balanced precariously atop one another. In some blocks, these one-room apartments were barely 10 square meters, smaller than the average American bedroom. And yes, we totally looked up the size of the average American bedroom for this video. I mean, who knew that anyone was actually counting? Within the
I feel like that's a pretty easy piece of information to get your hands on. There's probably like standard building codes and practices for the size of like an average. Okay.
these tiny apartments, you would have multiple families living. Typically, 3 or 4 generations would live in a space not much bigger than a closet, the kids doing their homework in one corner while mum and pop ran their business from the front. Yep, that's right, business. Just like any city, Kowloon Walled City needed its entrepreneurs to keep things working. For many families, this meant turning the front of their apartments into some kind of shop. But there were bigger businesses too. Because neither the British nor the Chinese could enforce their labor laws, the walled city became a mecca for those wishing to operate without a license.
Oh my god, it's like cyberpunk! Oh my god, it's like the Chinatown in Blade Runner. Oh my god. Oh, I'm swaying. I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of fun today. Are we good? We're doing good, aren't we? We're doing good. Okay.
Houses set up shop, unlicensed dentists, factories. Surrounded by the din and bustle of this human hive, workers would package food for consumption across Hong Kong. It is said that at one point, 80%
It's literally a Shadowrun game that takes place in a rebuilt Kowloon Walled City. Oh, that's fucking rad.
All rice balls consumed in the territory were prepared right here in these dingy corridors.
Hey.
Speaking of food, the walled city was famous for its snacks. You could get a sumai for the equivalent of one.
I'm sorry. Holy fuck. Is this actually... This looks like Chinese to me. Is this actually like a... I mean, this isn't like... I assume this isn't like an accurate diagram because I doubt anyone had full access to the interior or whatever. Because there's clearly some... Oh, is this Japanese? Oh, this is Japanese. Is this not Kowloon Walled City then? I wouldn't have any way of knowing. Is this just like an abstract art piece, or is it specifically Kowloon? Yeah, there are no blueprints to build off of, so... There's a graphic in English. This is so... Well, it's horrible, obviously, but it is... Okay, so here's the flight path. Holy shit, they had to do a 45-degree turn? Oh my god. They really were baiting a 9/11. Jesus Christ. A 45-degree turn that close to the runway? Don't pilots try to line up to the runway like 100 miles before they even... I mean, like, having to do a 45-degree turn within a few miles of the runway sounds very spooky. Jesus. This was the old airport and they moved it? Yeah, I get that. 500 buildings built into 2.7 hectares. Without municipal services, the defense tried calling for mistrial. I'll cover it after it happens. It's fine. Without municipal services, there was no rubbish collection. Old television sets, broken furniture, discarded mattresses, and other bulky items were hauled to the roof and abandoned. Jesus fuck. Other rooftops were used for exercise, playgrounds, relaxing, and even pigeon racing. Sure. There were 77 wells inside the city, some more than 90 meters deep. Electric pumps delivered water to big tanks on the rooftop. From there, water was funneled through narrow pipes into the homes. Can I just say, this is a pretty extraordinary level of ingenuity considering the unbelievable lack of resources these guys had to work with. The fact that through unimaginable poverty, they were able to build like 14-story buildings with water piping through them and wells that were maintained, like... I'm not saying that, like, this is a very functional human settlement. I'm just saying, like, we are, you know, we are a cool species. Despite its daunting, squalid appearance and reputation for lawlessness, many of Kowloon's walled city's former residents remember it fondly. I wonder, what do you think the policing was like here? Like, what do you think they did with, like, crime? Because, I mean, it's not like Hong Kong police would come in here. Do you think they just, like, exiled people or just, like, had lynch mobs? Or do you think they actually had like a kind of informal internal court system? They ran it through gangs. Well, if it's gangs, they probably just shot them, right? That's, I'm guessing. I've never heard of a gang putting someone on trial. It's all in the video? Okay, okay. There were several schools and kindergartens, some of them run by organizations such as the Salvation Army. Damn. Tiny metal fabrication shops made up a good number of the 700 or so industrial premises. Most were found between the ground and fifth floors. There were many heroin dealers, but they were untouchable. Police could only arrest non-residents. Street-level shops, unlicensed dentists and doctors, fucking monkus, Jesus Christ. Market stalls and cafes that often included dog on the menu. Okay, I don't like this. This is dumb to me, okay? We literally eat pigs. Pigs are as smart as dogs. Arguably smarter. I don't like the weird obsession with like calling out Asian cultures that eat dogs. We literally eat pigs, okay? Pigs are maybe not as cute as dogs, and even that's arguable because little potbelly pigs are super cute. But like yeah, and cows are pretty smart too. Not as smart as pigs or dogs, but still. I'm just saying, like, this is like moral dumbfounding. This is just people getting mad because we like associate dogs with like pets or whatever. But there are people who keep chickens or cows as pets. In India, like cows are sacred, you know? So but we kill like a bajillion of them every nanosecond. So I don't know. This just seems like cultural bias, in my opinion. Reminder that Vaush has never owned a dog. Wait, guys, are you seriously defending this fucking racist-ass obsession with, like, Asian cultures that eat dogs when we literally eat animals that are as smart and as affectionate and as capable of being friends to humans? Are you literally going to... It's not racist? It's the obsession, the whole, like, the Chinese eat dogs is 100%, like, hardcore, a long-standing, like, racist obsession. Like, the fact that anyone gives a shit about this is totally like a cultural bias that we arbitrarily enforce because we get to like think they're evil or like mean, but we're not. They do eat dogs, sure, and we eat pigs. Like, why obsess over it? Is it mean to eat dogs? Yeah. You know what else is mean? Eating animals. You fuck. Go vegan. How dare you complain about dogs being eaten when you eat fucking bacon? What the fuck is wrong with you? Jesus Christ. At least the dogs they slaughtered in fucking Kowloon City, they actually probably like fucking raised and killed themselves, and they weren't slaughtered in a giant industrial factory that killed 1 billion of them every nanosecond and raised them in tiny fucking pens where they swam in their own shit and get injected with antibiotics so they don't die of the disease from their own shit. Oh, but they eat dogs. Oh, but they eat dogs. They eat oh, they eat dogs. Oh. That's bad. Dogs are cute. Okay, anyway. And here's the population density growing with time. In March 1993, the settlement was demolished. Okay, wait. So the settlement was demolished by who? The Chinese or the British? Because Hong Kong was still British in 1993. The settlement was demolished in a park that looked like a typical Chinese garden. Okay, so China demolished it then? It makes sense that China would, because China is the one who has a long-term investment in this region, whereas England would be out in like a couple years. Oh, Great Britain demolished it, really? Is it because dogs were the first domesticated animals? No, it's a cultural bias. It's a cultural bias. That's it, okay? There is no strict moral... Jesus Christ. 600 times the population density of Los Angeles. There is no strong moral argument for judging people for eating dogs while you yourself eat pigs or whatever. Okay, there's no strong moral argument for that. It's a cultural bias. It's moral dumbfounding. If you're so offended over it, go vegan. Okay. Eating pigs is normal. Least morally dumbfounded chatter right now. But eating pigs is normal and eating dogs isn't. Least morally dumbfounded chatter. Most ethically consistent. Is Vaush vegan? I'm vegan ethics pilled. I'm vegan. Listen, I'm pro veganism. It's like how I'm pro recycling, but I absolutely sometimes throw out aluminum cans in the trash, okay? All right. Just finish the video. I'm culturally vegan.
US cent. That's if you weren't busy frequenting the various noodle bars. Noodles in the city were so good that the average Hong Kong resident would go to the walled city more for the gastronomic experience than for anything to do with crime. But that being said, crime did exist there. It wasn't exactly the den of iniquity portrayed by popular culture, but it also wasn't a shiny utopia. And now
Probably
it's time we met the shady people running the show.
Vaush, but instead of saying they're both wrong, you just do a whataboutism? No, they're both wrong. No, that's what I'm saying. They're both wrong. It's you shouldn't eat animal products, okay? Vegans are morally superior to non-vegans, okay? Everyone get that in your head. If you want to hear that and then go, okay, but I'm going to eat meat anyway, fine, you can, but they're still morally superior to you. Just in the same way that people who donate 10% of their income and go volunteer at a homeless shelter every week are morally superior to you for not doing so. Does that mean you have to go do those things? No, not everyone has to go do those things, but they are doing a better job than you. And the whole moral grand scale of the whatever, yeah, donating 10% of your income to me counts too. In the grand moral fucking calculus of the universe, okay, they're winning more than you, at least on that side of things. I have no idea how to go vegan. There are lots of really good resources for it online. It's not as hard as it used to be. If you're interested in trying it, here's what you should do, okay? Look up some vegan YouTubers for recipes and go 1 day in a week. 1 day in a month. In 1 day in a month, like the first Monday of every month, say, okay, today I'm going to have 3 solid meals and they're going to be vegan. I know this meal, and this meal. I have a couple of like little snacks that I can have in the morning that I know are vegan because I got it's vegan food, and then I'll cook a meal for lunch and dinner, and that'll be my thing. And like see how it feels, and honest to God, it's not that hard, okay? Vegan oh, and by the way, the key is to embrace the fact that you're eating vegan. Don't get obsessed with going for vegan substitute foods. Vegan substitutes have gotten a lot better with time. Mind you, vegan cheese, vegan meat, much better than it was a decade ago. But don't think of it as you're trying to have the same meals as always, just vegan, because you're limiting yourself. Try exploring other dietary options, and see if you can't go a day for that. And if you can go 1 day a month, maybe you can go 1 day a week. And if you can go 1 day a week, maybe you can go 2. And if you can do that, then it's not as hard as you thought it was.
With no nation able to exert control over the walled city, you might be wondering how it didn't just transform into a permanent Hunger Games. The answer is that there were people enforcing order amidst chaos, but it wasn't the police. In this city, it was the triads that called the shots. While the triads are synonymous in Western culture with violence, within the walled city, their role was different. Lacking anyone else to do the job, the triads were basically City Hall. They organized waste collection, recruited a volunteer fire department, kept order in the cramped alleyways, paid elderly residents pensions. There was even...
Really? Pensions? That is interesting. You would really expect, given the desperate conditions these guys lived in, that that like once you're old or sick, you would just die because there's enough people. It's the most population dense place on Earth. The continued value for human life is really cool.
An old folks' home located in one of the blocks where the triads arranged for the old and infirm to be looked after.
Probably
but
not
still, criminals are gonna be criminals.
That's
While
true.
they might have been able to fulfill some basic social functions, the triads couldn't help themselves from indulging in a little bit of classic gangsterism on the side. The most destructive, of course, was the drugs trade. Getting high in the walled city was an absurdly easy thing to do. Opium dens flourished in its darkest corners, while the rampant heroin trade allowed you to go on the nod in the comfort of your tiny home. There was even a hierarchy of drug users. The wealthier indulged in opium, while those less well off shot heroin. For the equivalent of 3 US cents, you could drip...
Opium was considered better than heroin? Does anyone do opium anymore? Doesn't everyone just do heroin? Is opium like purer or healthier? What? You smoke opium, right? It's a class thing? Yeah, I thought heroin is way stronger than opium. I don't know.
Drift away and forget your troubles, even if only for an hour. Unsurprisingly, this led to rampant addiction and all the attendant social ills. There were rumors of addicts dying inside their tiny apartments and not being discovered for months, of families hiding corpses so they didn't have to pay the funeral costs. Yet, while darkness undoubtedly flourished in the Walled City, so did a lighter side of life. You won't see it in the many films set there, but the Walled City was a functioning society. It had schools, kindergartens, libraries. There were even 2 temples you could pray at, one squeezed down in the darkness of the lower floors and one situated beneath the skylight that was frequently buried under garbage. People did normal jobs here too, albeit with a unique twist. There were mailmen, a whole bunch of them. Each day they would spend 8 hours scrambling up and down the infinite blocks, navigating the preposterous numbering system, squeezing through alleys, which were an
Fuck, you know what sucks? What's that one show? Was it on Netflix? Dark Tourism? Holy shit, if Kowloon the Walled City still existed, oh my fucking god, I would love so much to see a Dark Tourism episode on that place. It doesn't exist anymore, so we can't, but like... Or like, fuck. Bourdain. Do you think Bourdain would have the balls? He would. He totally would. Bourdain would totally fucking go here to have the noodles. Didn't he just talk about how the noodles were super good? He totally fucking would. Holy shit. Bourdain is dead. I'm aware that Bourdain is dead. Thank you, Gentlefish. I know. Thank you. Guys, not only is Bourdain dead, Kowloon hasn't existed for 27 years. Obviously, Bourdain being dead is not the only obstacle, okay? Not Kowloon.
Average of 90 centimeters wide. Because it had grown without any central planning, walking the Walled City wasn't like walking a normal city block. In the late 1980s,
You're really
one
mad at
resident
chat
tried
today.
to map
Chat's
the
being
place.
dumb
It took him
today.
the best part of 6 years to record the strange twists and turns and hidden routes that those mailmen had been forced to memorize. Still, this outward chaos, it masked inner normality. On the roof, children would play soccer amid the television aerials, oblivious to the airplanes booming overhead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can't you argue the reasons we don't like to eat dogs is due to the carnivorous diet, making the meat not taste good for most Western parties? Has anyone eaten animals that are considered pets? This has nothing to do with the ethics of the situation. It's if you don't want to eat dogs. I'm not saying you should eat. I'm just saying you can't morally condemn cultures for eating dogs when you eat animals of dog-like intelligence. You know, if the only meat that Westerners ate was like chickens, maybe you could be more upset. But we don't. We eat pigs and we keep them in squalid conditions. Pigs are incredibly smart. Pigs are as smart as like 2-year-old kids, aren't they? Even if dogs tasted horrible, I'm not saying we have to eat dogs. I'm just saying that we can't judge other cultures for doing it. Pigs are actually considered the 5th most intelligent animal in the world, even more intelligent than dogs. They're capable of playing video games with more focus and more success than chimps. They also have excellent object location memory. Smarter than dogs and even 3-year-old children. This blog says they're the 4th smartest animal. I'm guessing, I'm guessing it'd be like human, like other primates, dolphins? And elephants. Elephants would be up there too. Yeah. And they're super cute too. If you're gonna make an argument from moral intuition, okay, then you really shouldn't be making one against pigs, okay? Because pigs are fucking adorable. Hold on. I'm gonna melt some hearts. 1 second.
Named Betty, 2 boys and 3 girls. This is Pretzel, the only
Pretzel.
dark-haired piglet. His spotted sister Maggie,
Little baby.
and then there's little Lulu,
What are you getting?
the
This
pinkest
carpet.
piggy.
Lulu. Friends. They're all friends. And they can be friends. They're like your friends. Look at this. Smart. Be free. He wanted the leaves. They have a little vest. He's stupid. He doesn't know. Move forward. Yes. All right.
Men, they would sunbathe. It was like a typical Manhattan block, with the exception that Manhattan's population density was 27,000 people per square kilometer, while scaling the walled city up to that size would have resulted in a population density of 1.2 million people per square kilometer. Certainly not a good place for claustrophobics. Still, by 1980, Kowloon Walled City was starting to become a part of Hong Kong's life. The colonial police had even started patrolling inside on the understanding that they were purely there to keep people safe and not enforce any annoying British laws. So it's ironic that it was right at this point, just as the walled city was starting to go legit, that the colonial authorities were again making plans to destroy it. This time, though, they would succeed. In early 1986, Sir Edward Yoder was a man with a problem.
Yoda?
The colonial governor of Hong Kong, he was all too aware that Britain's time in the territory was coming to a close. 15 months earlier, in December of 1984, Beijing and London had signed the Joint Declaration, paving the way for Hong Kong to return to China in 1997. There was just one problem. Edward Yoder had no idea what to do about the walled city. Like most of the Hong Kong elite, Yoder considered the ungovernable block in Kowloon to be an embarrassing slum, the sort of place that gave refined gentlemen nightmares. He also considered it a perfect propaganda gift to China.
This is why rich people and politicians aren't humans. They're all demons and they all eat children. To look at something like that, like an emergent society like that, and just think of it as a stain on an otherwise clean landscape is such a disgusting perspective, you know?
Yoda's thinking went like this. If Hong Kong was handed over to China with the walled city intact, Beijing would immediately use it to kick the British. And the last thing a loyal man like Yoda wanted to do was embarrass the crown. From this worry grew the long process that would lead to the walled city's destruction. The first any of the inhabitants heard of this was at 6 a.m. on January the 14th, 1987. That humid day, 360 housing department staff, supported by scores of police, sealed off all of the walled city's 83 exits and fanned through its alleyways, collecting information. By sunset, they had registered 19,606 people living within its walls. Eventually, that figure would be revised up to 28,200 people scattered across 8,800 buildings. The residents pretty quickly realized what was up, that rather than fight, they treated it all with a bit of a shrug. "We'll see what Beijing has to say," was the most frequently reported phrase that day. But when Beijing finally spoke up, those residents...
Okay, wait, quick question. Did they never have issues with arson? I feel like in tenements like this, all it would take is one fire to kill like 1 million people, you know? I'm surprised that things, I mean, I doubt they even had like a proper fire code or whatever. There were fires, they had firefighting teams. Yeah, I guess they would have had to. It just seems like things go to shit so fucking quickly, like in no time at all. And like, how could you even, the buildings aren't even spaced apart. How could you even stop the fire?
Were in for a nasty shock. In early 1987, the Chinese government declared that they were happy to let the British do whatever they wanted with the place. If they wanted to knock it down, well, good luck to them. See, while Kowloon Walled City was safely within British territory, the Chinese were happy to kick up a fuss over it as a way of reminding London that Beijing might be down, but it wasn't out. Now that they'd got Hong Kong back, Beijing no longer needed that reminder. In fact, they'd much rather see the walled city in ruins than have to deal with it themselves. And, well, with that, the city's fate was sealed. All through the rest of the decade and into the 1990s, the colonial government worked to clear the area. New homes were offered to residents, generous compensation packages were handed out to businesses. Some enterprising landlords even built new homes during the clearance process, specifically so that they could claim extra money. By January 1991, 96% of residents and 51% of businesses had agreed to leave. The colonial authorities breathed a sigh of relief. But this is Kowloon Walled City we're talking about, a place that always refused to play by the rules. If the British wanted to tear this slum down, they were going to have to fight for it. Throughout around 1991, there were warning signs that not everyone was happy with the demise of the walled city. Union Jacks were burned in the street while protesters waved Chinese
there's
flags.
your fire.
But still, things remained mostly calm that summer, if a little tense. Come late fall, though, they finally exploded. On November the 28th, protests broke out outside Hong Kong's government house. Angry former residents marched through the streets before finally erecting a new tent near Kowloon City. The following year, 1992, there were skirmishes at the walled city. Rocks were hurled at the police and people punched officers. Given the volatility of the situation, the authorities chose to let these incidents slide. That March, a small homemade
A surprising level of foresight from colonial police. Not what they're known for.
bomb destroyed a flat vacated in the clearance.
Oh, shit.
And slide. That March, a small homemade bomb destroyed a flat vacated in the clearance. Barely a month later, an angry resident attacked police with a meat cleaver, injuring several. In the aftermath, the colonial authorities decided that it was time to finally finish the job. That June, armed riot police converged on the walled city, making for the apartments where the last diehards still held out. There were standoffs, unwise words, the threat of violence. Yet, for whatever reason, things never span out of control. One by one, the last residents left their homes, hands in the air, and surrendered to the police. On July 1st, 1992, police reached the last holdout apartment. At 16:30 that day, the middle-aged couple barricaded inside. They agreed to leave. The moment they stepped out...
I have to say, I am actually surprised by the restraint demonstrated by the colonial police. I was expecting there to be a purge, you know, like the majority of the population would leave, and the last few hundred they would just like storm through the buildings. Again, colonial police, like we're not dealing with a great history from the British, but if they just held out to a standoff for a long time, I mean, this is the 90s though. Yeah, well, we've done bad things in the 90s too. I understand they probably didn't want bad relations with China, or like they didn't want to exacerbate or make an international incident out of it. But yeah, okay,
Into the bright Hong Kong sunshine, the walled city had lost its final inhabitants. But clearance wasn't quite over yet. Remember that tent that the city protesters set up? Well, by mid-1992, it had become a magnet for former walled city residents, and it was starting to grow. Fearing that another walled city would just spring up, the authorities quickly moved against the encampment. On July the 2nd, it was dismantled. Demolition of the walled city began 8 months later, in March 1993. It was a slow process, one that used tools rather than dynamite. For a long time, it was still possible to make out the outlines of the former city, even as its walls finally fell to the wrecking ball. By April 1994, the last of the walled city had been destroyed. After dominating this corner of Kowloon for half a century, the most famous slum in history, it was no more. When they tore the city down, the Hong Kong authorities were acting with the best of intentions. At the time, it was seen as nothing but a vertical slum, the vertical equivalent of Rio's favelas. Yet, just as the favelas can be misunderstood from the...
Well, I don't know if that's really comparable. Never mind.
Equivalent of Rio's favelas. Yet, just as the favelas can be misunderstood from the outside, so too was Kowloon Walled City. This was a self-organizing community that had sprang out of nothing. This was architecture designed by the people and free from government interference. Over decades, it had grown like an organism, eventually becoming a real-life example of grimy Blade Runner-style futurism.
Yes!
More than that, though,
Say it so
had
I don't
become
have to.
a unique community. It's telling when the South China Morning Post caught up with a former resident who'd received vast compensation for leaving that he told them, "If I could choose, I'd still be running my air conditioner repair business at my walled city shop and leading a happy and stable life." Many others who lived there have spoken in similar nostalgic terms, remembering the food, the people, the feeling of living beyond the normal rules. And it seems this feeling had reached more than just those who once lived there. Today, nostalgia for the walled city is everywhere. You can see it in pop culture, such as the Gotham City neighborhood, The Narrows, which Batman Begins director Chris Nolan claimed was modeled on the walled city. You can see it in games such as Call of Duty Black Ops, which included the walled city as a playable level. You can even see it in Japan, where some wonderful nutjob has meticulously rebuilt 3 stories of the walled city as an amusement park.
Interesting.
Apparently, they even import trash from the Kowloon area of Hong Kong to keep it looking authentic. Kowloon Walled City, then, is a place that survives in humanity's imagination, living on in sci-fi, graphic novels, and visionary architecture. It may have been a crime-ridden slum. It may have appeared only because of a diplomatic void. But the Walled City was a place that made its mark on history, and who knows?
I feel like I might want to learn more about this in the future, because I feel like there are lessons that we could learn here about mutual aid, can't we? The idea that that independently, like, government organization could form and, like, communal, not, again, I'm not saying it was a paradise, just there are definitely things to learn here.
If we'll ever see its like again. So I really hope you found that video
And yeah, I did find it interesting. I wonder where the former residents were moved to, because how long has China been building those, like, ghost cities? You know, China's been doing that for a while. They've been building these, like, ghost cities. China anticipates, like, the big population boom, so they're like, we're just gonna build a city and we'll find the people for it later. Now, these always look really creepy and dystopian. Because they're very inhumanly built, but I think the concept is pretty defensible. Yeah. Yeah, we did stuff like this with suburbs, but I don't think we did it with whole cities. At least not much. Ordos, China's largest ghost town. There are cars right here. How's it a ghost town? Weird shit. Pretty sure most of those are going to stay empty. Yeah, I'm not saying that China is, like, necessarily that great at planning for the future, only that they do. So does anyone live at them? They literally just build these cities out there waiting to move, like, population. It's basically like a modern day version of what's it called? Landsteading, claim staking. Well, we did the Old West. What is it called? Homesteading. Yeah, where basically the government waves the flag and they're like, "Yep, you can live here now," and people want to get on in there while they can. The government offers, like, money or, like, business subsidies and stuff like that for people to start and do stuff like that. Wouldn't people break in and steal wiring? That's what I'd do. Well, keep in mind, it's a ghost city with no one in it except, like, police and construction workers, and they have checkpoints. So, and, like, you run on over there and you, like, run out with, like, a coat full of, like, and there's, like, copper wires popping out of the collar and shit. And I think they'll just shoot you. It's China, man. I don't know. You'll be bing chillin' in no time at all.